Hey, it's Forrest. Today, we're going to talk about rubber. I had once asked this question, said, what's the best tires for my dually in Hotshot trucking? What's the best tires for it? And of course, there's all sorts of answers have to do with traction, and I made a video a little while back about that. But one of the things the video didn't mention, which I was at a truck stop yesterday and I saw this and I thought I would bring this up. I'm going to show you something about tires, and it's a little bit of do's and don'ts about tires when you buy tires for dually. There's 6 tires there. Okay, so this is a 2019 Ford F350 dually, and I want to show you something on these tires. Now this tire right here, this is a typical tire you'd find on most dualies that are run up and down the road, you know, doing hot shotting, right? It's highway tread, it's pretty deep, so you can, it's good in the rain. It'll work in the snow a little bit. That's why they got all these little grooves and cuts and stuff in the sidewalls, to help it give a little more traction. And then we have this tire right here. This is kind of a all-terrain, kind of an off-road kind of tire, but they do okay on the street. They really are terrible with gas mileage, or fuel mileage. But these are 2 different tires. And I saw this truck that had 2 different tread designs. Now, both tread designs were more like this. They were a highway tread on the truck, but they were different, right? So they were a different tread design, even though they were both highway treads, and they weren't like the off-road treads like this back one is. The problem is that if you take a highway treaded tire and you put those on the front, and you put a off-road style tire on the back, the problem is that when this is touching the ground, it has a different amount of rubber that's actually on the ground, right? And it's structured different, so it's touching the ground in a different way than that is. This has a different kind of way the rubber's touching the ground, and they won't react the same. When you're going down the road and you go to stop, it doesn't matter about the traction, right? So you look at this tire and say, well, they both got deep tread and I'm stopping. This has got deep tread and I'm stopping, so they both should stop the same, but they don't. This has a different contact patch than this does on the road. And because of that, when you go to stop, the back end, if you had those on the back end and you had these on the front end, the back end will want to stop differently than the front end. Even if the tires, like this Toyota, if you notice, the tread on this one is like a highway tread, and the tread on this one is like a highway tread, but they're different treads. So even though they're different treads, they're different tread patterns, they're going to react differently when you stop or when you take off for traction. And even though they may be the same tread or very, very similar, you think, well, there's not enough difference there. They can be different compounds of the rubber too, so they're going to react differently with the road. This is why, one of the reasons why, that when you're buying tires for your truck, you have to buy all 6 tires. Don't just buy 2 tires. And I know what you're going to say, well, what if I have, 6 of these tires or 6 of these tires, and I just want to buy 2 front ones because I've left them on the front and they've cupped out? Nope, not good. Because what you should be doing is making sure the tires are rotated. And you rotate the tires, if you're doing 5,000 mile oil changes, you want to rotate the tires every 10,000 miles. So every 10,000 miles, and that's with good tires. If you got crappy tires, you want to do it more often. But you want to make sure you pull the tires off the front, mix them into the back, bring some of the back ones, 2 of the back ones, and put them on the front. Because if you keep the tread wearing at the same rate, they'll perform the same on the contact patch. But if you don't have them wearing at the same rate, the contact patch changes. And what I mean by that is that this rubber compound in the start of the tread is slightly different as it wears through the tread. And that's just because of molding. It's not like they planned it, but because of the molding processes, the rubber actually changes. The thicker the rubber, the more it changes as it goes down. So if you have tires that are worn more on the front than the back, or more on the back than the front, it can cause traction issues both on stopping and accelerating. But more importantly, and this is the big thing, that if you put one kind of traction on the rear and one kind of traction on the front, they're not going to handle the same. And next thing you know, your truck is moving around on the road. You go to turn and it feels like the back end is squishy. It's sliding back around, but it's really not. It's just that the front end has got a different attachment to the road than the back end, and you're feeling that difference. When you lane change or when you go around corners, it feels weird, especially if you go around corners at any kind of speed, like a loop for an off-ramp or on-ramp. And so by having those different kinds of rubbers different kinds of traction as far as the tread pattern itself goes, or different thickness as far as the tread itself, even if they do match, you're putting differences between the front and back, and it's causing it to feel like it's not handling very well. And that can become dangerous. I mean, it can come to the point where your front tires are changing different directions. Now, here's the thing. How does a tire get worn differently from the back to the front? The problem is that the front tires are your steer tires. So, of course, they're going to turn, and they're having to move the weight. You got big trailers. You're going down the road at 27,000 GBWR, and you go to turn, that's got to change that weight. So the front tires can be worn more on the outside. The back tires can get worn more in the center, say, because they're carrying a heavy load. But if you keep the tires rotated front to rear, you can keep the tread wear down, the tread wear differentiation down to a minimum. So if you're going to run the same tires, which you should do, you also need to keep them rotated so you keep that difference, because otherwise, again, you can cause handling issues, braking issues, stopping issues. So it's very, very important that you keep matching tires all the way around your truck. I know to some that feels like a known thing, but when I saw that truck with different tires on the back than the front, and that's what he had a more high traction on the back than he had on the front, and his was a two-wheel drive, so he had that. That's dangerous when you do that. And now also with these newer vehicles, the way they're counting the rotation of the tires, so this tire is the same size. If you read on the side of it, it's the same size as that tire, but when you hold them up next to each other, this tire is actually a little bit taller than this tire, even though by size rating on the side of the tire, they're exactly the same. This is a 245/75/17, and that's a 245/75/17. But if we roll this tire over next to this tire, you can see it's just a hair taller than the other tire. And that means that it's turning at a hair difference, and that difference is going through the computer system. The ABS and everything is reacting to that. So it's another reason why you need to do that. So to make sure you get your tires all matched, make sure you keep them rotated. Thank you for watching.